Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. It's Minnie Kansman here with Nature Connections, a Star Nations live stream show here on Be Live TV on Facebook land. Sorry, I'm just still getting the feel of producing and starting the show. So, hope y'all can hear me and everything's looking good. Let me know if you are in the chat room and you can see me and hear me. It'd be great. Before I get started, as today's show is about creating real fairy gardens. And I'm so excited to share this topic with you. It's one of many topics along this line that this Nature Connection show is all about sharing the nature spirits and the elementals, the devas, the fairies, everything that I work with, especially when I'm gardening, and to share kind of how I do that today is what I wanted to do, to really share how it can happen for you. So I don't see anyone in the chat room yet, but please let me know if you're there and you can see and hear me. So I know that I can get going on this. I'm going to check online and see what it looks like there, because I know that she does that, checks that out. So, gosh, it doesn't look like I'm on yet. You can hear me. Well, that's good. I'm glad. I'm so glad. And that must mean you can see me too. Okay. Well, hardest part is over. We've started, right? So, first, I'd like you to like and share, if you would, for me. Maybe share it on Messenger to someone that you know might be interested in this topic, especially if they are gardeners. This could be very helpful for them, or even if you just love flowers and love nature, or you love fairies and you want to learn more about them. So let me know. I'm liking and sharing with everyone. That would be great. I'm just going to take a big deep breath, because I have so much that I want to share with you. Really, this all started when I was very young, when I was a child. My mother, I think I chose her to be my mother in this lifetime because she was a very avid gardener. She loved to garden. She was a first grade school teacher, and so she had the summers off, which for her was the perfect job, because then she could garden all summer long. And that's what she did. And so my memories of her, we lived on a lake, and between times we were swimming in the lake, my mom would be bent over in her garden or on her knees digging something, planting something, and she loved to walk us around the gardens and show us what was happening. So my sisters and I learned how to be gardeners at a very young age. She gave me my own garden plot, which was amazing because she loved all her space that she had. But I had probably a 4 by 3 foot garden spot that was up against a chain link fence, and I could plant whatever I wanted to there. And Mom was really smart about letting nature teach me how to plant things rather than tell me what would be best for me to plant. So I remember there was something I planted, something very tall I planted right in the front, and other shorter things in the back. And I learned, that garden season, that it's good to know the height of things, or things get buried behind things. And so I learned that. I also had a magical experience with morning glories. I planted morning glory seeds, the blue ones with the yellow and white centers, which are my favorite. And they grew prolifically up that chain link fence. And it was a whole mass wall of morning glories. And one morning I counted 48 open at one time. It was amazing. So that got me hooked into gardening. So I also noticed when my mom would be out gardening, she would be talking and she wasn't talking to me. And I'd ask her and she goes, "Oh, I'm just talking to the flowers." But I wonder, if she was really talking to more than that, because I find myself talking to the garden, in the garden, and I know what I'm talking to. I'm talking to the nature spirits in the garden. And so I always wonder if that's what she did. And Neshi is in the chat room saying, "Does anyone else believe in fairies? Because I do." And if you believe in fairies, you're supposed to clap your hands like in Peter Pan. But I've been clapping my hands my whole life, I think. Wow. So today's show was really about nurturing a co-creative gardening experience for yourself. And so I'm saying co-creating with what? Co-creating with nature. So you and nature coming into alignment together, working together, agreeing to work together, and creating a beautiful garden space that nurtures your soul. One of my favorite gardeners, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the garden she's created in the United States, but a co-creative gardener, her name is Michelle Small Wright. And in her books, she writes from the nature spirit. She communicates with the nature spirits and she writes from their point of view. And I love this quote of hers. It's directly from the nature spirits. Humans tend to look at gardens as an expression of nature, and nature looks at gardens as an expression of humans. So we think we're growing this garden to add to the natural scene, of the ecology, right? We think we're adding to it. And the nature spirits say, "Oh, no, this garden is just for you." We don't make gardens like that. Nature, you've seen nature make her own garden. It's a wild field of flowers that's just scattered seeds that the birds have scattered, and animals have left their leavings and seeds in their food that they digested, and that's nature's garden. But all of our gardens are man-made, and they are for us. She says, when humans dominate all aspects and the element of life in the garden, we consider this environment human dominant. So they're kind of defining there's two different kinds of gardens that you could create: a human dominant garden, which I see as a garden that we follow the garden book. We put all the pesticides, insecticides, all the growing chemicals that we can on it, and we follow everything by the book that the scientists have told us this is how you create a garden. And that's a human dominant garden where we're just pulling out everything nilly-willy and planting what we want and calling, labeling things weeds or plants, and pulling out those weeds that we hate, like your lawn with dandelions. Some people, that's a human dominant garden. A lawn is very much a human dominant garden. And here they go on to say, we consider an environment nature friendly when humans understand that nature is a full partner in the design and operation of that environment and act on this understanding. So human as a full partner. That's what today's talk is about. We don't let nature just run the show. We're working with it, because if we just let nature run the show, we wouldn't do anything, right? And we just let nature create our front yard. But this is about a garden that we're creating for our soul and for our growth and for our nurturing. And so we're working with nature and ourselves as equal partners to create this space. Now I'm looking in the chat room, and my sister Ann is here. Hi, Ann. Good to see you. And Kimberly Griffins. Yes, I just believe I ordered a fairy garden. I'd love to know what you mean by that. But we're going to be talking about fairy gardens with the furniture and such in them too today. If that's what you mean. I'm not sure. Cindy Fairies says Angie Arsenal season must be talking about the fairies. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, we'll talk about fairies in just a little bit. Actually, that's what next on the agenda. What is a fairy? What is a fairy? And so, is a fairy? Let me show you. Is a fairy the flying figure from Disney that looks like a little young child woman with wings that flits around and with her magic wand? Is that a fairy? That's Disney's depiction of a fairy. For me, fairies are part of the whole order of nature spirits. And so there's an overall overlighting deva of the garden. We'll start there. Well, first you do have Gaia and you have Pan that are working in this creativity pool of energy that creates a garden. So you have Mother Earth and you have the energy of Pan, which is all creation energy. But let's step that down into the overlighting deva of a certain physical plane, and the overlighting deva of a garden is what we'll talk about today. There's overlighting devas of everything here on Earth. Let's look at overlighting deva of a garden, and that is the general contractor of that. You go when you first start thinking about creating a garden. That's who you would talk to. That's who you would meditate with. That's who you would want to connect with. For me, when I'm working with the overlighting deva of the garden, I am asking, what does this garden look like? Here's the space I have. Like when I moved here to the condo, some of you know I moved just a year ago to a condo in Colorado, and there was an existing garden here that hadn't had a whole lot done to it, had some shrubs in it and such. But I went out and meditated with that garden and asked, what's the vision of the garden I wanted to create, and how could we create it together? And I always have paper and pencil in hand when I do these meditations, because I'll see, for me in my mind's eye, I'll see a vision of what it looks like, usually a bird's eye view, overhead view, and I just sketch it in really rough, no perfection there. Just sketch it in and start to get a feel for where are there paths in this garden? Where are they? Are there larger shrubs? Where are they? What kind of features? Is there a water feature? Is there seating? Is there a bench? I love to sit and gaze at my garden. So I always have some kind of seating or hammock or something to relax and enjoy my garden from. It's not all about working in the garden. It's about looking and enjoying the garden that you create. So that's the overlighting deva of the garden and the work that you would do with them. These are all nature spirits. We could call them nature elementals, the overriding name of all of this. But I call it nature intelligence. That's a good one, because I do believe there's an intelligence that is orchestrating all that is growing here on Earth. So nature intelligence, garden deva, and then we step it down into the nature spirits, the elementals of the flowers, of the individual flowers, and that's flower fairies would come into this alignment. And fairies are part of the air elemental group, but they're the ones that help to grow that seed, to have that plant grow, the plant that you put in the garden, and to create the leaves and the flowers and the color that the flower is going to be. So they are in charge of all of that awesome creativeness. And that's who I work with a lot in the garden, those two. And then there is also the deva of the soil, which is really important because those are the earth elementals, right, underground, that are working with creating the best soil for the fairies to use in their creation of this plant that's above ground. So co-creative dance with these three nature elemental beings is very, very helpful. You see where I am at. Yeah, I call the fairies, sometimes I call them the worker bees because they're so busy. And for me, in this photo that you see here, that's what they'll look like for me, these tiny pinpricks of light, tiny, tiny pinpricks of light. And sometimes the air is just full of them. It's not just a line, but it'll just be a mass of them, especially if I'm at a very fairy rich area, like in my travels in Cornwall, England, in Ireland. There were places near waterfalls that could just be full, thick with fairies. So that's what how they show themselves to me. Now, some people may see them. You know, I have talked to some people that did see a little being with wings, a little girl with wings with clothes, and you know, I always say the fairies are going to come to you in the way that you will best be able to believe. Okay. Sometimes fairies come in the form of dragonflies or butterflies, different air beings. Those are called sylphs too. Sometimes, you know, fairies come in the form of toads and frogs in the garden, even bees, all kinds of different images. Sometimes they come in like, you know, blue wisp of light, like the will-o-wisp that you hear about in Ireland, that they show up sometimes in the foggy areas like that. So for me, it's more important that you believe in fairies than if you actually can physically see them yet, in order for you to communicate with them. That is your best way to open up communication, is acknowledging their existence. It's called respect. They have been unacknowledged for quite a while. There are still some countries that really highly respect the fairies still, especially Ireland and Scotland, and some in England too, especially in the Cornwall area. They highly respect the fairies. There'll be lots of folk tales about fairies that don't show them in the best of light, and a lot of that is human fear that's been displaced onto the fairies, I believe. Yes, they can be mischievous. They can like to hide things and such from you, but that's more their childlike creativity, their fun games. They're really not out to hurt us. They may block something from happening in a destructive way to nature. There, have been stories of when fairy trees have been gone to be bulldozed down in, let's say, in Ireland. I've heard stories of this, and the machines break and someone gets hurt on the job and things like that, because they don't want that tree to be destroyed. So they can do that kind of piece, but they're not out to get you. They're out to protect nature, is what they're doing. So working in co-creative relationship with them is only going to enhance what happens in your space with your nature spirits. Now she says, I see them as movements out of the corner of my eye. Yes, your peripheral vision is one of the first places that you can see them. I remember the first time I physically saw that wisp of light. I was working in the garden and I saw something go flitting underneath a leaf, and my logical mind told me it was probably a frog or a snake or something, but I went looking for the frog or snake and I saw nothing. And several, I've seen that again and again now, and I know it's the fairies kind of flitting about really fast. But like I said, for me now, a lot of times they just show themselves as tiny pinpricks of light, and almost squiggles. And I remember as a child, I used to, when you're doing doodling on your paper, I used to draw these little squiggles. And that's what I see now are squiggles. So I'm sure I was drawing the fairies back then. I just didn't really call them that. But I do feel like I have always been connected, and a big part of that is my mother, even though she didn't talk about fairies and nature spirits and such, just her and my father's connection to nature helped nurture that in myself and my sisters. Okay, I talked to you a little bit about my garden. First, I want to show you this amazing garden. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the author Tasha Tudor. She wrote a lot of children's books. But this is her garden. I'm going to give it a solo because I just think it is chock full of nature spirits. I can sense them. I can feel them. I can see them in this garden. I know that she gardened a very old-fashioned way with, very natural, organic gardening before organic gardening was cool, and very hands-on gardening. When you need to be in your garden touching your plants. I think you need to be in physical contact with your plants every day, not every single one, but I do walk through my garden every morning, and I'll deadhead the spent blooms, and I'm checking to see what new's coming up. And there's just a very important physical contact that happens in the garden as well. And I know Tasha did that. So here is my garden right now. And I told you I just moved in a year ago. And I'll give this a solo too. I just took this morning. So before I moved in this into this place, none of those stepping stones were in place, or the area where that it looks like there's a pond or a fountain or something. That's actually a drain. As I sat with the garden before I planted anything, purchased anything for it, I really assessed what was here. And underneath a bunch of leaves and debris, I found this huge culvert type drain that 3 different underground drains from the condo complex drain into. So it's a very important drain to keep the water away from all the buildings. And here it is in my garden. And so I sat with that and knew that it was important to get the energy or chi flow, as I am a feng shui practitioner, get that moving in the space. And getting this drain opened up and free flowing and the water moving into it was really important too. So that was a big focus. And for me to get the path, I wanted a way to get into the farthest reaches of the garden and back out again without walking on any plants. And also I have very heavy clay soil, so I would get clay gummed up on my shoes if I just walked on the soil here. last year when I first moved in. So this is a spring garden. There's just a few things that are blooming right now. They'll be a lot larger later on in the summer. But as I go to plant in a garden, I want to just share how I do that, because so I've talked to the Deva of the garden, and together we have a sketch of what it might look like. And I also knew, the rocks, I needed to make kind of retaining walls because it's also flowing downward into the drain as well. And I have found that plants really would rather grow on a flat surface than on a hill. They really would rather. So I created some terracing in this garden as well. But before I went out and bought any plants, I set up the path and I removed some older plants that were dying and were just not a good fit for this garden. So thanking them for their service, thanking them for being here, and removing them in a very mindful way. Anytime you have to remove anything from the garden, you need to show your gratitude for it. And then deciding, what was going to stay, and some things wanted to be moved. I moved some grasses. I spread some things out. And so I worked with the existing plants first. And then I went to the garden center. And this is when I start talking with the flower fairies. And I ask, which flowers want... It's kind of a scary thing when you ask, which flowers want to come home with me? But I would say, which flowers would love to come and live in my garden at my address? We'd even say that. And those flowers at the garden center will their color will attract you, or there's something about them. They just look really healthy and robust, or they're sparkly, a little sparkly or shimmery. And those plants will be talking to me and say, take me, or the fairies will be saying, this one, many this one. And I'll just walk through all the plants and I'll just listen, because this process of co-creation in a garden is 80% listening, 80% listening. And so I walk through and I listen and I pick up those plants that want to come home and be in the garden. And then, I was a botany major, so I would know exactly where the plant should go. But no, that's not, I'm not going to be using my left brain to figure out placement of these plants. I'm going to listen to my intuition, listen to the flower fairies, and I'm going to put those pots in where I think they want to go. And I'm kind of getting a nudge that would like to go here, that would like to go there. And you listen to the plant and to your heart. You're listening to your intuition. And I'll put the plant there in the pot. And I won't plant it right away. I'll leave it there for a day, maybe two. And then I'll come back and I'll say, okay, are you happy here? Is this where you want to be? And then I would plant it. But sometimes if they say, no, I want to be over there on the other side of the garden, and then you move that yellow daisy to the other side of the garden, and then all of a sudden the other three plants that you bought say, wait a minute, now we don't want to be where we are because you moved that yellow daisy, so they want to move. So sometimes it's a really big dance as far as placing plants in the garden. And it can change by moving just one placement. The rest can change. So it's a very, you need to be patient. And like I said, you need to listen. And it's very fun now to play with the fairies. It's very fun. And once you figured out where these plants want to go, they're happy with that spot, and then you dig the hole, and then the soil, David, the soil will start talking to you, or the fairies, and they'll say, you need to add this to the soil, or this to the soil, or, and it's not just your overall garden that needs it. It's that particular hole in that particular spot for that plant. So I have composted cow manure always available. I like to have worm castings, which you can buy by the bag. I like to have an organic type fertilizer. And I might have some lime or something like that. I haven't needed it in this garden for that. But there's, certain amendments that the soil will want in that hole when you plant that plant. So be aware and have those items ready too as you shift the energetics of the soil. So it's not just about planting the plant, but it's about creating that soil container for the plant to grow in. Let's see what's happening over in the chat room. Neshi is talking about the fairy trees in Ireland. Oh my gosh, they were so amazing. And in Ireland, they hang ribbons and give coin offerings and all kinds of things for the fairies there. So that's how I plant my garden. I want to show you this picture of how I would say this is how nature plants a garden, especially for fairies. Give it a solo. This is one of the many, many stone walls in, I believe this one was in England, in Cornwall. And there are hundreds of flower fairies that live in these stone walls. And as we would drive by on the bus, I would just feel and sense and see them all, and they would all be talking to me while I'm flying by on the bus. Hi, Minnie. Hi. Yeah, you brought people here. Yay. We would do hikes there, and they loved it when I would bring people out to the forest and to the fairies. But in these nooks and crevices of these walls are so many tiny beings that are alive. If you take the time to listen and connect with them. Now she's asking, Minnie, can you explain to us what makes a tree or shrub a fairy tree or shrub, and the other trees and not other trees or bushes? Oh, okay. Well, there's certain, it's interesting because, okay, I'm going to show this. You're right there where I am, Neshi. There's certain plants that fairies really, really like. In Ireland, they love the rowan trees. In the US, I would say they love moss and they love ferns. And you'll find more of an abundance of fairies in these places. There are fairies in everything because, like I said, the plant needs it to grow. But they're thriving in certain, they pick certain plants and certain locations. And mushrooms are another sign. You can see the mushrooms on this hill of moss. Another sign that the fairies really enjoy this spot right here. And they love ferns as well. And they love that deep, moist, woodsy spaces. So I promised you I brought up the name of Michelle Smallright, and I want to show you her garden because her garden is called Perelandra Garden for Nature Research, and this is in Pennsylvania. And she is one of the first authors that I read about this whole idea of co-creating with nature. And this is her garden that she has planned with all the overlighting devas and nature spirits, and she speaks with them daily, communicates with them daily about what she's to place where, what's the shape of the garden was determined, of course, by the garden overlighting deva of the garden. Shared with her how it would best grow. It has a special crystal in the very center of it. And her work is really inspiring. Let me see, I've got her information here. Michelle Smallwright is her name. Michelle is spelled a little differently than you might be used to. And the garden is called Paralandra. What I have, here it is. I'll put it in the chat room. Paralandra, Center for Nature Research. And it's amazing what she has done with this space. Okay, let's see my words showing up here. There. Oh, it did come up. There's just a delay, isn't there? So she's actually went on to create flower essences from her garden, and now she's working with microbial essences, and it's fascinating. But her first book, the one that I read that got me started on all of this, and I think part of it was the name of this book, was called Behaving as If the God in All Life Matters. And that's, to me, what co-creative gardening is all about, is respecting all of that. Respecting the God in all of life, creation in all of life. And so I put that in the chat room. Oh, and Neshi's put her website. Thank you, Neshi. ParalandraLimited.com. If you just Google Paralandra, you're going to find a lot of information about her. But I just love her, and she started in like 70s, I think 74. She called it freshman year of learning to work with the nature spirits, and her story is fascinating. So I would highly recommend you looking her books up. Another community that has been doing co-creative gardening since the 50s is called Findhorn in Scotland. And in Findhorn, this one is solo, Peter and Eileen Caddy and Dorothy McLean, three friends, found themselves kind of destitute. They didn't have a lot of money. All they had was a car park caravan, a trailer that they were living in, and they needed to grow some food. And they had this land that was just sand and near the ocean. And so Eileen started talking with the nature spirits about how she could grow food in this soil. And they started communicating, and the nature spirits were telling her what she should grow and how and what to add to it, just kind of like what I've talked about. And they started growing food, abundant food. And they're famous because they grew like a 40-pound cow. Scotland tour that just got moved to 2021, but it's happening in May or June of 2021. We're rescheduling it right now. But one of the places we'll be going is the Findhorn Gardens. And here's one of the pathways there. So you can see nature is rich and abundant. And this is all about co-creating with nature, communicating with nature. And then the people that live there. There's a whole foundation, a whole community of people that live there, and that's their main focus, is to be in this connection with nature. They even have this beautiful hall that they've created for lectures and such, called Universal Hall. I think it's just gorgeous the way it blends in with the land. Reminds me of a Frank Lloyd Wright or something, where it really just looks like it grows from the land. It's an amazing lecture hall that they've created there, because they have a lot of speakers come and a lot of programs, and you can actually go and live at Findhorn for a week or several weeks and really learn how to garden and work at the gardens, and really become tuned in with them. So it's pretty awesome place, and I'm really excited that we get to have it be part of my nature adventures tours, called The Spirit of Scotland, happening in 2021, next spring. So, it said this was going to be about fairy gardens, and you might have been thinking it was going to be about something like this, which is, the commercialism around fairy gardens has gone crazy, insane in the last 3 or 4 years. I just realized I didn't put my light on. Probably would have helped. Let's get it on now. Yeah, a little bit better. Sorry. So, so this is part of my fairy garden that I had in Michigan last year. And it all began actually with this fairy door. I'm going to give it a solo here. This fairy door. I got a fairy door, and I leaned it up against an old cherry tree, and it became my fairy garden. And I just let nature kind of grow the plants around it that she wanted to grow there. And then over the years, it became more elaborate. And on the back side, the whole camper came into place. And I added pieces and furniture and such. So how is that working co-creatively with the fairies? Well, I think, I told you that the first part about connecting, beginning this communication, is acknowledging them. So if you create your own fairy garden, whether it be in a low pot or it be next to a tree or in one little spot of your garden, it's kind of like an offering to the fairies to say, come please be here in my garden with me. I acknowledge you by giving you this. It's like an offering, kind of, for an altar, even though fairies don't need campers or chairs or even doors. But it's an acknowledgement in a way of saying, yes, please, putting the welcome mat out. Now, what's fun about, I love my picture of my door here, because this garden got a lot more elaborate than this first year that I put it up. But last year, as I was gardening for the last spring in my garden in Michigan, I was near this garden, and I saw this door like flopping back and forth. It was moving. The fairy door was moving. And I went over and I opened the door, and there was a mouse there looking at me. And then he shut down a hole that he had created right at the base of this tree. And it was, for me, that was like total acknowledgement that, yes, the nature spirits had moved in and appreciated this space. And I left that fairy door there at the house. I couldn't take that down. I brought the camper and those pieces. But the main fairy house, the original one that I began with the walkway and the door, I left. And the new owners have grandchildren. They were very excited to have a fairy garden at Grandma's house. So pretty cool. Like I said, oh, it's so much fun. I have so many fun pictures. fairies can show up as, a lot of times they'll show up as dragonflies for me too. Anybody had that happen to them where they have a certain butterfly or a dragonfly that just keeps hanging out in the garden? It's pretty fun. Hummingbirds as well are pretty cool. So I was talking about Scotland a little bit. Let's go there again, because I am taking a group there with the intention of connecting with the nature spirits of Scotland, the land of Scotland. And it's pretty easy to do there because the people there already believe in fairies. This is called Rosemarkie Fairy Glen. So every place they have a waterfall or a wooded area, like I said, these are areas that fairies love to hang out in. They call them fairy glens. So this is Rosemarkie Fairy Glen. It's not Rosemarkie Waterfall. It's Rosemarkie Fairy Glen, place where fairies live. I'm going to give it a solo too because it's so pretty. But there's a really easy walk back to these waterfalls right outside Inverness. And you walk along the stream. And when you get to the spot, the waterfall, there's all these places where people in an old stump, they take coins and they've pounded coins into the stump as offerings for the fairies. So they will make a request. It's very much like making a request at a holy well, but they'll make a request of the fairies at the fairy glen by leaving an offering. And they might leave an offering of a ribbon or something in a tree nearby, but I found more often they like to leave coins right at this area. So I find that fascinating. And there's another really fun place we're going. And Nessie says, yes, dragonflies and hummingbirds are good signs of fairies too. Yes, they are very much. Another place we're going on the Isle of Skye is the Fairy Glen there. And I love this photo because it just looks like, some little fairy nymph jumping across the rocks here. But this is part of the trail, is going across these stones and following this stream back to beautiful waterfalls as well. And we'll be taking the group on that trek. That'll be a little bit longer trek. I think it's probably it's not bad. It's like 3 miles round trip. But we'll be doing ceremony that day at the waterfall. So really looking forward to that. Looking forward to my Nature Adventures travel business is really being about taking sacred travelers that really want to connect with the earth and the land and the ancient energies of the land all over the world. And here in the United States, we're doing national parks. We did Rocky Mountain National Park here in Colorado last September, and in 2022, sounds so far away, but it's really not, we'll be doing Glacier National Park. So really, I am looking forward to those trips as well. Let's see what else I wanted to share with you guys. Oh, sometimes it's really, I forget to toot my own horn, but I do happen to have a book all about what I'm talking about today, called Spirit Gardens, Rekindling Our Nature Connection. There it is. And I wrote this book in 2007 now. Very much so about the topic that what I'm talking and sharing about today. I really feel that there is a very special need for us to remember our connection with the earth, to remember our connection with nature, And since gardening is the #1 hobby here in the United States, you know that over any other hobby is gardening, what better way than to rekindle that connection through gardening, through spending time in the earth, through grounding, through earthing. Like Neshi just talked about, I saw your video the other day, Neshi, where you got your earthing mat and your earthing information. I'm so excited for you about that. But gardening is the perfect way to do earthing, connecting with the electromagnetic energy of the earth, because your hands are in the soil, your knees are, you're kneeling down on the soil, you're connected. There's no rubber shoes between you and the soil. I garden barefoot all the time, mainly because I love the feel of it, but also I think intuitively I know that I can ground in earth better without the shoes on. So barefoot gardening, I highly recommend. Kimberly Griffin says, wow, Minnie, I take my groups around Sky. The fairy glen is beautiful. Divine timing. Yes, Kimberly, that's so cool. I love. Are you in Scotland then? Is that where you're from? I'd love to know more. Love to meet fellow spiritual travel agents, I call us. Take groups around and really connect with the sites. So I'm wondering if anyone has any questions in the chat room. Otherwise, I thought I might read a part of my book that I wrote when I first started writing the book. And I wrote the book Connected with the Nature Spirits. They used to wake me up around 2 o'clock in the morning. I had young children at the time when I wrote this, so it was hard to write during the day. And so they kind of knew that. So they would let me, I go to bed around 11, and they let me get a few hours of sleep. So my physical body had some rest. And then I'd get woken up about 2 or 3 in the morning, and they would just write through me for a couple hours. I wouldn't edit whatever I wrote. I would just leave it on the computer and go back to bed. And then in the morning, I would open it up and read it and go, wow, I don't remember writing that, but I like it. It's pretty cool. It was a pretty interesting way to write a book. But this is the part that I wrote as I was connecting with them. And this is Dear Nature Spirits. I know you exist as I can feel you and see you in my mind's eye. You have always been present in my life, and I would like to introduce you to those who may not know you yet. Gardening is the perfect way to connect. Your energy becomes the thoughts and ideas that emerge in my mind as I work Zen-like in my garden, or even as I look out the window on a snowy afternoon and dream of the garden work, which never feels like work, that is to come. I have plans, big plans, and dreams that pop into my mind, and you are there to help refine them and bring them into manifestation. All of it is to create beauty in my world and the world of those around me, to heal all of our needs and bring us closer to God, who in the end is responsible for it all. I feel so blessed to be a part of this plan to link the two together, and often I hear pure joy rise up inside my soul as I answer that call, in gratitude for all I have and will learn from you on this planet. Thank you. So that's how I opened the book. And it is a pure joy, and one of the reasons that I decided to take on hosting my own show called Nature Connections, because I feel it's what I came here to do, to connect humans with them in forest therapy, what we call the more than human world, and for us to relish in that benefit. Kimberly Griffins has a question. I'm going to show it so I can get it on here. May I ask, when connecting with the nature spirits, if you feel a difference in the energy, like when we connect with our spiritual team? Yes, Kimberly. Usually I feel pure joy, but it's kind of like, definitely when you connect with your spiritual team or when you go into meditation, your mind is quiet of other thoughts, and I feel love. I feel just a big, really strong surge of love. I feel my heart open, and I usually feel pure joy. Like preparing for this show and for the article I'm writing, wrote an article for Star Nations magazine for next month in June, called Creating a Real Fairy Garden. And when I was looking for the photographs, the images for that, I was just so open in my heart that whole day, because the images made me so happy. Like the moss one with the mushrooms that I showed, because I felt that connection through the photographs. I felt that connection with them. So, it doesn't always have to be in your garden or that you have to be in nature. You can be just looking at an image or meditating and looking out the window, like I talked about, looking at the snow, thinking about the garden that's underneath it, to create that connection. So great question. Thank you for that. Really at the time. Yeah, 2:56. Okay. Well, like I said, because of COVID, we have decided to postpone. We did not cancel. We postponed our Scottish adventure. And that will happen in either May or June, or end of May, beginning of June of next year, of next spring, or a year from now, about a year from now in timing. And by that time, I'm really hoping and praying that travel looks a lot different for us, and we'll be able to connect with all of these beautiful places that I desire for us to connect with. We're going to the Callanish Stone Circle on the Isle of Lewis. We'll also be going to the Culloden battlefield from Outlander. There's a few Outlander touches. The Callanish stones are actually the stones that they use for the facility of the stone circle that for Outlander. I'm sorry to break your bubble, but that's not a real stone circle. Those stones are made out of styrofoam, but they are fashioned from the stones, the shapes of the stones and such at Callanish, although Callanish is larger than that. And they place them up on a convenient hill near Inverness, so they can do filming easy than going out to the Isle of Lewis. So we're going to the real stone circle there for Outlander, and I'm also going to several gardens and some castles, and we're taking the steam train that they used in Hogwarts. So there's a Hogwarts connection too. We're going to be taking that, going to the town of Stirling. Again, that was in Outlander. Not Stirling, Williams, Fort Williams, yes. And so lots of connections there. We are also going to one of my favorite places that I took a group to several years ago when we did Scotland. Before, we went to the Isle of Iona, and we had such a short time there that I vowed that day that I would bring a group back, and we were going to have at least a whole day to spend. I'd love to spend the night there, but my group still is too big to spend the night there. But we were having an entire day on the Isle of Iona, such a magical place, but not the easiest to get to. So there's several ferries involved and such, but we'll get there, and spend a magical day on that island full of fairies, full of nature spirits. Um, I loved all the nunnery and the stone cathedrals and pieces that were there, Celtic crosses, but I was drawn to the trees there because there were trees with hidey holes and heart-shaped openings and ferns and moss and fairies all over. And I'm excited to get back there and spend some time with them. Oh, Neshi's given us a link to the magazine for Star Nations. Yes, my featured article will be in next month's magazine, which publishes pretty soon. June 10th isn't that far away. I can't believe how fast the month of May has flown. I heard Neshi talk about that in her show, and it really has. So, looking at the time here, I'm going to say that please join us tonight for Soul Connections with Polly Joe. That will be at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And so this is my show for this month. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here with me today. And those of you that are listening later in the archives, I appreciate you listening and sharing and liking my show with the world, because I believe this information is important to get distributed. And thanks for joining me as I get to talk about what I love, nature. So until next time, blessings be.